your drink from the wide variety of juices we have available today. Go ahead and we'll get going in a couple minutes here. It feels really hot. Hot, like it. Okay. Like not temperature-wise, but I feel like if I talk any more, if I talk any more than a whisper, it's gonna feed back. All right. I don't know. It just seems a bit loud. Okay. Something like that. Yeah. Oh shoot. Changed some stuff in this.
Oh yeah?
I did.
Change it in the slides.
No, I didn't.
Okay.
I just switched these two
Okay.
so that Ken was talking all at once and then.
Don't tell anybody but this used to be my.
Because you'll get asked to do it all the time.
We should do a very brief space group update. I don't see it on the agenda, sorry.
Okay,
I should have said that before, but
that's okay. I will.
slide that in there somewhere.
Are you talking to it or is Adam?
We just had a disagreement. One of us will, yeah.
Okay.
Just invite us up and see what happens. Adam is already speaking with somebody else.
Oh, something else,
And I'll
Okay. Alrighty, folks. I think we are going to go ahead and get started here. So thank you all for coming to the AGM. We are required to have 50 members to make quorum, and we do. So that is a very exciting development to start our meeting. So you can see our first slide that we have here is our agenda. It's fairly standard. We'll go over some of the housekeeping stuff, mechanics, stuff like that, just the financials, election of leadership team, regional reps. And then hopefully, even though I didn't ask him, Phil will close us with a prayer. Nice, I got a wave, so I'm taking that, it means it's a yes. So I think we can go on to the next slide. So just, oh, we're getting there. It's all gonna be fine. It's okay, I'm just gonna keep talking. So a quick overview about process. As a church, the United Church has moved towards a consensus model rather than the more traditional like moving and seconding process. So when we're voting by consensus, I will ask if there's anybody who opposes the motion proceeding rather than who would like to approve it. So if you have an issue with whatever motion going forward, just raise your hand and we'll discuss it until you feel comfortable moving forward with that motion. If it becomes impossible for us to all agree on something, we will cross that bridge when we get to it, but we will, you can have the option to abstain from voting or stuff like that. Hello. Can we get a show of hands how many people need a copy of the annual report? I I think just one. Oh, was there another hand? No, just one? Oh, two. Okay. Okay, Kathy is coming to find you with a copy of the report. So yes, that is the consensus model. For those who are joining us on Zoom, thank you very much for doing so. It'll operate the same way, so we will assume that you have approved unless you indicate otherwise. So if you disapprove, raise your hand, put something in the chat. Adam is monitoring that. If you have questions on Zoom, you can also not answer them through the chat. You can ask them through the chat, and we will answer them. And if you have any questions about process, just ask. That is totally a-okay, and we will do our best to answer them the best you can. So does anybody have any questions about process right now? I'm not seeing. We can go on to the next slide, Adam. Also, just a quick spoiler alert that this meeting is going to end with an ask for people to join leadership team. So this is something that you can be thinking about throughout the meeting and thinking about how much you would love to do that. We have two partial terms up for grabs right now because we've had folks who had to step down. So we have one 2-year term available and one 1-year term available. So it's not even a full 3 years if you're interested. I'm seeing a question for Sandy. Sorry. It should be. Okay, we can add that in to the annual report. Okay, it's definitely in this PowerPoint, Sandy. I added it to this, so we will make sure that that is corrected moving forward. Apologies about that. Does anybody have questions about any of that before we move on? Seeing none, I'm going to go ahead. Okay, so we've already counted all the folks in the room, and we have 50, which means that with anybody who is joining us on Zoom, we will definitely be good. And I think it is safe to say that at least half of the folks here are full confirmed members. Technically, all of our items need to be voted on by full members, but we will have a motion to change that so that everybody is able to vote for the rest of the AGM. So motion 1 is the appointment of officers. So the motion is that Lilia Best, which is me, be appointed chair and DL be appointed secretary for this AGM. So for this one, only full members can vote. So does anybody have any issues with that motion going forward, or are we all good with that? Excellent. I am not seeing any coups or anything starting, so that is always a great way to start an AGM. So our next motion will be allowing all present to vote, not just full members. So this means that anybody who is attending today can vote, not just folks who have been confirmed or had their membership transferred here to SMRUC. So I will ask, does anybody have any concerns with that motion going forward, that adherents be allowed to vote on all matters brought before this annual general meeting? I am also not seeing any hands, so I think we are good to proceed with that. So thank you very much for that. Motion 3 is the acceptance of the agenda, so that the agenda of the February 2024 annual general meeting be accepted as presented. Does anybody have any issues with the agenda? We have already had one request to add a quick update from the space team to the agenda. But aside from that, are we okay with the agenda as presented in the annual general report? I believe it's also on the next slide too, if we want to put that up. I am not seeing any hands, so I think we are okay to proceed. Thank you very much, folks. 4 is the acceptance of the minutes from last year's AGM, that the minutes of the 2023 AGM be accepted and circulated. Do we have any concerns about those minutes? give folks a chance to just skim them quickly if you haven't had a chance. Not seeing any major concerns. All right, I think we can consider that approved. And if you do have any edits or anything, we can always revisit that afterwards. Motion 5. We're just flying through these motion, folks. I am very proud of us. So motion 5 is that the annual report the 2024 annual report be accepted as circulated. Aside from that one edit about getting Sandy's name added to the retiring leadership team members list, does anybody have any concerns with that? I am not seeing any, so we will consider the annual report accepted as circulated, and I want to give a big shout out to Kathy for putting the AGM report together. That was very hard work. Made harder by the fact that I am not good at submitting things on time. So thank you for your patience, and thank you for all of that. So now we're going to go through the financial statements from last year. I'm going to invite Ken up to speak to those. And I will give you my chair, Ken, so you can use this microphone.
Thank you very much. My name is Ken Fernambuk, and I am the treasurer of St. Mary's Road United Church. And I am here to present some financial information for your review and give you an opportunity to ask questions, etc. And so what I'm going to start with, first of all, is in the annual report, about 6 or 7 pages down, there is, and it's now behind me, is the food bank a statement of receipts and disbursements. And I've never presented this to you in the annual report, but I thought it would make sense to do so this year. So it gives you an idea of happening within the food bank. Monies do come in from donations, and over time there were some CD sales sold a few years back, etc. And then that money that it comes in is spent in various ways. And so this summary is a summary for what happened during this year, where we started with about $29,000 on hand, and the donations that have come in from various people total just a little bit under $15,000. There was a Manitoba Harvest grant. 50% of the grant was received for $6,700. We then spent this money on for food, for supplies that augment what Harvest gives to the clients that come here on a weekly basis. So there's we add, or the food bank people add to the hampers that are being picked up by the people. So there's about $13,000 spent out for that. In addition to those food that's purchased, people also provide food at a rate, and that's also out, but no money. We just treat that as it's not run through these numbers. It's just there and is given out. So then the other, during the year, there was a hot water tank that needed to be replaced, and the food bank contributed some money toward that hot water tank, because in consultation that Rhonda would have had with Paulette, there was a discussion that was had that in fact the food bank people were in fact using up some of the water in there for wear and tear and everything else. The food bank agreed to supply that $154. And then the grant that was received from Harvest, an application was made to spend about $13,000 on various items, including an office computer, a bench for seating, some shelving and utility wagons, some tables, and a massive fridge that is now in the kitchen area. So that totals about $13,000 of that grant monies. There was a foul up at the harvest end. We did not receive the balance of the grant monies in the year 2023, but it's now been received in February this year. So the food bank at the end of going into this year, we've still got $20,000 on hand, and then it'll be added with another $6,300 of grant money. Basically, there's about $25,000 going ahead. So that's just a summary report. I wanted to give you an idea of what goes on within the food bank. Any questions at all? Hearing none, then I'll go on to the statement of operations, which is the 2 pages before that in the annual report. It is a statement of operations that gives you the summary of what went on during the year from a financial standpoint, just numbers. Adam will likely talk later. He's put together some graphs which perhaps show things in an easier way than numbers do, but it is the budget that we had for 2023, the actual numbers for 2023, and then that compares to the actual numbers of 2022. So going right to the very bottom line, you will see that when we had our annual meeting last year, we struck a budget that was going to be about a $25,000 deficit, and as things unfolded during the year, we wind up being at about a $5,000 deficit. So we did much better than anticipated. Some of that is a result that we did get a bequest during the year of $10,000. The other thing that happened is that we've got a large increase in our gift card income. There is gift cards are purchased on a regular basis, monthly basis, and are there to be purchased by people that are attending church, etc. But we also have a large organization that buys a large amount of dollars on a monthly basis that we're able to provide those gift cards to them. So what happens is that we buy $10,000 worth of gift cards. The organization that we buy from, we maybe have to only pay out $9,500, so therefore we make about $500. That's just as an example. But because there's been a large amount of dollars that are being purchased by this organization, we were able to make an extra $11,000 over what I was anticipating. This organization has money through to the end of March of this year. So when we look at the budget this year, you'll see that the gift card income is not as high. If this organization carries on, well, we'll get into that later. Anyway, so that, then the other thing I guess that needs to be brought to the attention is that we had more rental income than was being anticipated when we did the budget. A lot of the other expenses are pretty much lining up with what we had anticipated. The other thing that happened is during the minister's salary increased in July because United Church indicated that Phil's salary moved from a different classification in the cost of living area, so his salary increased during the year. So that's why his salary, when we look at the minister's salary, is greater than the budget amount. So that answers that. The mission and service monies that we pay out, we wind up spending out $18,000. People designate some of their monies during the year, and if they give us more than $18,000, we will send in more than $18,000, but if they give less, we still as a church give $18,000. So that's a very quick summary of these numbers. So perhaps I would move the adoption of the statement of operations indicating a deficit of $5,132, such that then we could open it up for questions. So I'll move that. I guess I need a seconder. Any questions? Now, you'll have to, do we have a roving mic at all?
It's on. Sandy's question was that if the food bank has money in the bank, is that money able to be moved over to sort of our general account to cover that deficit?
No, that money is designated for the food bank and stays for food bank operations. So no, I would say it's not. Now, the one thing I didn't mention to you is that we do have under the revenue and expenses, we do have monies that relate to the building study that's ongoing. There was an $18,000 grant that was received during the year, and that money has been spent. So that's in and out, much like the SCORE project that's been ongoing. We've got monies that are in and out, and the same with the food bank. I've indicated the income coming from the food bank and the disbursements. So that has those three items have no effect on the bottom line. Any other questions? Any other questions? I guess hearing none. There's a motion. I guess we need to vote on it. Or is it just, are we good to go with it?
I think so. It's fine. So does anybody have any concern with the financial statements? Are we okay to?
There's a question there.
Oh, we have a question. You can come up here, or I can be the roving mic and come to you.
Clarification, what's under expenses, what do registration expenses? What does that mean?
What are the registration expenses under expenses?
Okay, I'm going by memory here, but there's probably was a conference that was attended, and I think there might be another expense that's there that is
Music licenses and things?
well, that we've got a music expense item, so I'd have to check and let you know. Sorry.
If it's conference, it's probably the regional meeting. Sending two people to regional meeting.
Right, I think so, but I also think there was another registration there's another item that's there that Rhonda put. I just can't remember what it is. It was about $400.
Are there any other concerns with this, or do we feel okay to adopt these?
Okay, all right.
Seeing none, we'll consider them good to go.
Okay, so then the next item is our balance sheet at December 31, and this just indicates the monies that we have on hand in the various accounts. We do have some monies that are set aside in term certificates that mature each May. I've got just a minute, Sandy. Just let me. Sorry.
So Sandy wants to know our income is set at 220,000. Is this for the budget, Sandy, for the upcoming year?
Yes.
Yeah? Okay, so this is a question pertaining to the budget for the upcoming year. We're gonna hold on to that, Sandy, and I will ask that when we get to the
the
discussion
budget.
of the budget.
Yeah, thank you. So going back to the balance sheet that is there, we do have some money that's set aside in term certificates that mature. We've got 3 of them that are maturing each May, one every year for the next 3 years. And then I've got another one that's maturing on an annual basis in November. So come this May, if we do not need monies to operate, I'll likely reinvest that for another 3 years. So it's rolling every 3 years basically. And the accounts receivable there is the money that's basically invested in gift cards and a GST rebate that's got to be applied for. Down under the liabilities, under the directed donations, there's $42,000. So 20 of that is the food bank, There's some monies that we've got in our account that have come in for Camino Manitoba, and then there's some other gardening group and other various, a firm group, and they've got some monies that are designated for them. So that's what makes up that $42,000. So very quickly, that's our balance sheet. Any questions? So again, I think it's just moved that the balance sheet be accepted as presented.
So do we have any concerns with that, or are we okay to proceed? I'm not seeing any concerns, so we will consider that.
Okay. All right, so then the next item is the budget for next year. So the budget presented in a fashion that I've presented in the last number of years. We indicate the various expenses, and then we have the income at the bottom. So now in going through the various expenses that are there, as far as what's being anticipated, a lot of them, other than the salaries, are pretty much same and similar to prior year, etc. Small increases in utilities. There's at the very bottom, there's a United Church assessment figure of $11,503, and that's an invoice that we get from the United Church that's paid for on a monthly basis. So coming back to the salary figures, we pay the ministerial staff based on what the United Church indicates to us that we need to pay. This year, the increase over last year is 6.3%, biggest I've seen since I've been involved in the treasurer role. But we don't have any choice in that. So that particular salary for Phil goes up 6.3% over what he would have got last year. The other staff figures, we used a 3% increase over last year. So that's basically the salary information. Within the income figures, using similar numbers to last year as far as the rent is concerned, although it sounds as if from hearing Kathy at the various leadership team meetings, there are people that are wanting to use the space, etc. And but I've just used about the same figure as last year, about $45,000. So that's the Montessori plus other places that use the space. The gift card income, I started to explain the income there. Actual income last year was $14,000. I'm just using $7,000 for this year. If the organization that we're talking about is still with us through the whole year, then our income might be higher at the end of the year. The special events income, I've used a figure of $1,500. We've already exceeded that from the soup ferries that we've already got about $2,500 in this year. So that number will exceed what we've got budgeted there. And then the givings, basically, it's $220,000, a little bit of an increase over last year. But again, the challenge is there to meet these expenses. We need money, and it's got to come from those that are attending church and giving donations, etc., from rents. But that still leaves us at a deficit of $35,832. And we've looked at this with the leadership team. The challenges are there. Basically, the expenses are pretty much not too much you can do about some of those expenses. But the challenges out there, we do have the money to be able to meet this. But again, I think that there's going to have to be challenges during the year to try to get people to increase if they can. But that's where we are, $35,832 deficit. Don't shoot the messenger. So I will make a motion that we accept the 2024 deficit of $35,832.
Hello. I'm just going to ask Sandy's question from earlier. You mostly spoke to it, though. She's just wondering about that 220 number for givings, given that we know that our number of givers has been trending downwards, whether we still feel good with that number. But then again, as you said, yeah, that number needs to, or we need to, you know, be getting income from somewhere. So I don't know if you want to speak to that anymore. Or Sandy, if that question has been sufficiently answered.
Any questions at all with respect? So
Sandy would like to propose that that givings number be lowered to 210 for the projected for 2024 instead of 220.
So if that number were changed to 210, then that's going to increase the deficit to $45,000.
Yeah. Ooh, sorry, I'm gonna not fall off the stage. So yeah, we can lower that if we want. I think we still want to be thinking aspirationally, and that we're hoping to exceed that 209. But if we would feel more comfortable lowering it to 210, we can move forward with that instead. Do we have any more questions about the budget thus far?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not really in favor of lowering it. I would just like to see that there would be more discussion at leadership and how we can get that up to 220. Right. That's my feeling. And I also would just, I mean, I'm okay with the deficit because I know, you know, the expenses are fixed. But I would just like to see more discussion at leadership about the looking at the, you know, like the events, the rental income, those kind of things, to see if we can increase those over the course of the year. That's what I'd like to see. So I would just recommend that we have a discussion and maybe feedback back to the conversation and how we can do that.
For sure. Yeah, Kathy.
I just wanted to comment that I don't know who brought it forward as leadership, but that there is a lot of discussion about the rental amounts, and that a document is being created so that it will increase the numbers, trying to get them on par with some other places, but also keeping in mind that we do have a number of organizations that rent from us that cannot afford those amounts, and we still want to provide them with a place to be. So there's a balancing act, but we definitely have been talking a lot about the rentals and are trying to come up with an actual set document so that it's not just, okay, we'll charge you this amount. So hopefully that will help in knowing a more exact number, but also hopefully it will increase. So that is something that's being discussed.
Great, thanks.
Yeah, Amy.
Another question on the right.
Oh, sorry. I'll let Amy go first, and then I will go that way. Go ahead, Amy.
Okay, just, why are bookkeeper expenses doubling?
The Rhonda retired. Kathy was hired. Ken is the treasurer, but not hands-on doing accounting work. He's being an observer, so he's not in there doing the check writing, the deposit, recording the donations, and everything else. So Rhonda I think the intent when the hiring was made would be to have Kathy do some of the accounting as she became more adept at her position, and perhaps we get her to do some of the accounting, et cetera. We're not at that stage yet, and so Rhonda has agreed to carry on a position doing the monthly work that the accountant needs, or the bookkeeper needs to do. And so that was a figure that I used that would obviously, hopefully as this year progresses, if we get to a position that Kathy can take on some of those things, hopefully. Alternatively, maybe there's another treasurer that comes in, volunteer, able to do more things on a current treasurer does. Sort of a story that was a number sort of picked out of the air.
Here somewhere, Michelle. Right, that's okay. So Michelle was just saying that she would like to see, instead of the leadership team, sort of in December, coming back to the congregation with an update about what our deficit is, more regular reporting from the leadership team, so that the congregation as a whole is sort of more aware of where we're at deficit-wise, instead of sort of doing a push in December. Any other good point? Thank you.
Any other questions?
So, since we did have a suggestion to lower that givings amount by by $10,000, but it doesn't sound like we're necessarily all in agreement about it. Maybe we'll just do a quick show of hands and see sort of where we're at feelers-wise. So who would prefer to leave it as it currently is at 220? Okay, and who would prefer to lower that amount to 210? So we're seeing a handful of people. Are those who are in favor of lowering to 210 okay to either abstain their votes to let this motion move forward, or do we feel like we need to have further discussion on this before you're comfortable in allowing that to happen?
I raise my hand for lowering it to 210 because I leave that comfortable moving forward to 220.
Okay. It sounds like then we're probably okay to move forward with 220, recognizing that we definitely have work to do in meeting that. So then I think that would be approved there.
All right, thank you very much.
Alrighty, so thank you very much, Ken, for that update and for all your work as our treasurer throughout the year. Yes, Dave, so now I'm going to invite Adam up, who's got a bit of sort of a narrative overview of our financials. Adam, do you have me to do the slides while you're up here? Kathy's going to do it. Thank you, Kathy. And I will give you this chair.
Hi, my name is Adam Gerhardt. I have been working with some of the financial numbers for a while, so every year we look at some of our history of the numbers, and so this is the context of what we have been spending and how our history has been going with the numbers. It goes back to about 2009. It goes back to exactly 2009. So if you want to put the first slide up there. There's a question about our number of givers. Hopefully you can see this better. So this was, Ken didn't mention this, but the foundation supported the purchase of a new projector. The new projector is much brighter. Last year you couldn't see any of the graphs that I put up, so you just have to believe me. This year, hopefully you can see some of what's up on the screen. And we can send this around if people want to have more detail with it. You can see the number of givers and the average per giver. So the red line shows the number of givers. You can see back in 2009 we had about 450 identifiable givers. We have just under 200 identifiable givers now. So about a little less than half we did in 2009. The giving per giver, i.e. how much each person is individually contributing, has been going up steadily. So we started the average being just about 300, and now it's just about, the average being about 700, we'll say, and now it's just over almost $1,100 per each individual giver. Does that make sense? So what everybody's giving is going up, the number of givers is going down. I would like to point out that in the middle there, from about 2016 to about 2020, just before the pandemic, we had stabilized at about 250 givers. It had been that way for about 5 or 6 years, and the pandemic hit, and you can see where that point is. It just sort of goes down from there. The pandemic has had a significant impact on us. Next slide. This is the income by the different types. So since 2009 to 2023, what our income is, and you can see in the last couple of years, the amount of money that we're spending, that the offering has been going down, but the amount of money we're getting from rental has been going up, and our special income, which is often grants and that kind of stuff, has been going up. Our interest income is right at the bottom, but you can see that that's going down, but the amount of money that we're relying on for income from other sources other than just donations and offering has been going up significantly. So we used to be just over $300,000 of income from donations. Now we're about $200,000 of income from donations. The next slide, this shows our envelope offering and our PAR offering. So the envelope is the blue line, the amount of money that we used to get from envelopes. It started to be about equal, and it diverged fairly quickly. Our PAR offering has been going down not quite as quickly as our envelope, but what happens is most people on envelopes eventually go over to PAR. And the open offering, you can see at the bottom, is a little line. This is what people put into the offering basket without, just open collection, stuff like that. For a few years, there was, of course, zero during the pandemic because we didn't really pass. And we haven't been passing the basket as much, though there is money coming in there. Okay. Do you want me to stop? Do people have questions as we go along with each one of these? I'm just sort of rambling through it. I don't know if people have questions. If you have questions, certainly stop, and I can answer some questions about this. Our roaming mic is just gave a question. If someone wants to make a donation so we can purchase a new roaming mic.
Sandy, I was wondering if there's any kind of breakdown in regards to specific givers in terms of folks who have passed away and how that will impact our ongoing offering, if that is information that we have available.
We know what everyone has given over time. I don't look at that. I look at sort of a rolled up number. We could do that. We haven't done a by individual donation. So we don't. I know that we've had some significant members of the congregation pass away, and some of them have contributed lots, and some of them have contributed less. And so we haven't assessed that by individual. And I know in general what the categories of giving are, but I'm not looking at individuals.
I have a question. I know that, I noticed in the budget that you had a request last year for $10,000. Do you do much work on, I know you work on trying to get more giving, but what about planned giving? Have you done any work on that, or is that something we can't do at the local church level?
We can absolutely. So the question was about planned giving. Have we done much work on planned giving? We've had folks from the region and from national come and talk to us about planned giving. It is absolutely something we can do. We can have some conversations about it. We haven't done that in recent years, but it might be, if people are open to that, it wouldn't, So two things. If you're interested in that enough to organize that, that'd be fantastic. And it's not hard because the United Church does a bunch of that stuff, and so they would be willing to come and send information, have a session, talk about plan giving. Plan giving is when folks often put in their wills a bequest to the church. And so we do receive some of that, and we can certainly have more conversations. So as with all of this, if that would be something we'd like to do and someone wants to organize that, that'd be fantastic. Otherwise, you can come and talk to me and we can see about having that happen. Okay. Next thing. Yeah, turn it off. Yeah, you tell me pass. Oh, your phone password, fantastic. Biometrics much safer. Okay. The next slide is our M&S contribution. Yes, yes. So this is the red line is our directed donation. So the way we do M&S, Fund Mission and Service Fund of the United Church of Canada, all congregations, well, people can donate individually to the United Church's M&S Fund, and we can donate as a church. And so what we said a long time ago, so in 2009 we were giving, I think, $18,000 on top of whatever anybody else gave. And we decided around then to say, we're going to give $18,000 as a congregation, and then if people direct donate, then we'll take whatever that is and pass that along. And if they don't, we'll top up to meet $18,000. And so you can see the red line is what people are individually contributing to the Mission and Service Fund. And you can see the top up is, usually it's a little bit below. In 2020, actually, it was above, and so we contributed more. But all of it, we top up, and it's not a lot we top up, but we top up a little bit to get to $18,000. So the congregation has consistently given $18,000 to the M&S, and I think our donations to M&S have actually, our individual contributions. The next slide is our utilities and expenses over time. So one of the big things you'll see in our expenses is gas. Gas has gone up a ridiculous amount, and you can see that happening. That's the U shape there. So it was really high, and then it went down for I don't know why, and then now it's up because prices. The other things, insurance is the purple line. You can see that going up. The other ones are fairly consistent. There are things that hydro's sort of ticking up, water's ticking up a little bit, but the biggest thing, our biggest expense is the gas. So those are our expenses over time, with just the utilities. The next one shows all of our expenses over time, and so you can see those expenses over the years have basically maintained as at a fairly steady rate. They haven't gone down a little bit. Things like maintenance costs, and in the last few years we've had some maintenance. There's been some, I don't remember, but there's some special things that we've done. There's other utilities and taxes in there. You can see there's M&S in there, but also office expenses and worship, I think, is a little wee, the purple line is a little wee purple. So what we spend on worship expenses is a tiny little thing. This is good to look at what we could actually, what we can control. The gas and stuff like that is really hard to control. Worship expenses, we can just choose to spend less on worship, but there's not a lot of movement in there. And maintenance too, there's not a lot of movement in there. I apologize here for the special expenses for you. That might have been things like roof, or it might have been, I think in here this is, we're spending $18,000 this year on a consultant, but that's offset by some grants and income. And the last graph I have for you is the allocation, including staff. The red line is the staffing. So it's the same graph, but with staffing expenses. You can see actually the staffing expenses, even though back in 2010 and 2011 we had several staff, and now we have fewer staff, but the expenses haven't gone down, they haven't cut in half, right? Because people's wages have gone up and various other things for lots of good reasons. But that's fully what we're spending as a congregation. I know those are helpful. It's hard to sort of consume that on the screen, so maybe we'll share that around. I think I promised that last year we didn't, so maybe we'll do that this year for real. And but I'd be happy to answer any other questions, or if there's other things that you'd like us to look at from a financial point of view, trend-wise, that would be helpful to understand our context. We can do some of that. We have numbers back to 2009 in the spreadsheet that I can do stuff with. Any other questions? Phil has a question back.
With the space group looking at the question of different energy consumption or
So the question about the space group is looking at different energy consumption, the answer is no. Except in the context is if we do a build, we would likely change the heating, ventilating stuff.
I'll address that shortly.
And apparently, Sean's going to address that shortly. So in the context, so for example, we know Meadowwood is looking at going geothermal. So they have a big project underway, they have grants, they have funding, they've been raising money. They're considering going geothermal. I'm not sure how far they're along in that process. So that's something we could look at too if we wanted to. Because one of our biggest expenses is the gas, and it's that big old boiler in that space over there that we're heating all the time. And this space we heat both spaces, but we have a lot of space to heat, and it's expensive. Other questions?
The expense in 2020, the jump, I believe, was the roof on the tree.
Yeah. Marissa,
Question about the new square. Don't know if this is the right time for it.
right time. New Square, yes.
So just wanted to confirm that myself, somebody who has never bought grocery gift cards before because I wouldn't get cash back on my credit card, now I can buy gift cards with my credit card, get that cash back, and then go to the grocery store?
Well, so here's the context for that. So the question is, can you buy gift cards on your credit card because you get the cash back on your credit card?
I mean,
Because you want to,
credit card, clearly.
right. So yes, you can. Square charges us a service fee of 2.67%, which is not cheap, but if you weren't going to donate otherwise, then it's a good way of doing it. It's a handier way of doing it. So we make maybe 2% off gift cards, something like that. We don't make a huge amount. So we would lose money if people only paid by credit card. So what we're going to ask is if people want to buy those gift cards by credit card, that we bump up what they're paying by 2.67%, so it covers the cost. So you pay a little bit more, but you can pay by credit card, and I don't know what your cash back is, but maybe you can do the math around that.
Perfect. What I wanted to know. Thank you.
And we do take debit as well, right?
Yeah.
So that would be no cost to us, probably.
Square charges us no matter what. I'm not sure whether it's less for debit. It might be less for debit. I'll check on that. I don't know the answer for that. But the question is whether Square charges the same fee for debit. I'll look and find out.
I check, usually it's less.
It's less, okay. So it's probably less.
Very.
I will check. It's a convenience thing, and we'll charge you a convenience fee. So there you go. Other questions about?
You don't have to pay fees if people e-transfer, right? So, or give cash.
No fees,
That's
yeah.
the way to pay for this.
Cash, check, e-transfer, honky-dunky, that's excellent. We do pay a service fee for PAR, but it's fairly low, but it's not nothing, but it's just super handy, so we like it when people do that. Any other questions about our trending statistics that would be helpful for context? Okay. There you go.
All right, thank you very much for that, Adam. So before we go on here, I'll invite Sean to come up and talk about some of the space committee stuff. No, we can just turn. You can come, Jake. All right.
Okay, that's heavy. People feeling heavy? We've got a deficit. We have a significant decline in the number of us that are donating on a regular basis. I can add to that by saying there are going to be 3,000 vacant churches in Canada in the next 3 years. 10,000 over 10 years. When I look at all of those statistics, I come to the conclusion we got to do something quite different. And last AGM, you elected a space group. It's the best name we could come up with. So it's Adam and myself and Leanne Douglas and Pat. Pat's here, yeah. And Bryce has been very faithful throughout the whole year as well, stepping back now to focus more on youth group stuff, which I think is awesome. But so the four of us we're continuing on. In some, very much so, we think that the space that we have determines our function. And this is very common discussion amongst churches. And so we will have a a congregational meeting, probably within 2 months. And we're feeling excited. So we want you to know that the space group, and we've been around, most of us, for a very long time in this space, we are feeling pumped and excited. But we also want you to know that we're not going to come back and say we should keep doing this, because we honestly don't think that's an option. When we had the presentation from Trinity Centers Foundation, most of us were there. They gave a scenario which sounded like, should we just rent out the space better? And that's not even an option. And just to talk about Phil's question, the boiler, okay? We should give tours of the boiler. It's probably well over $100,000 just to replace it. It should have been replaced 10, 15 years ago. That thing's going to go soon. We're spending more on fossil fuels, twice as much on fossil fuels and utility bills than we are on mission and service grant. So, you know, the business as usual, it isn't even remotely an option. So I'm preparing you for being able to consider some exciting new directions. We're purposely kind of tight-lipped about it. People are going to, oh my God, what's going to happen to that? We want you to have the full context of what that looks like. But there are churches across Canada, they're doing really exciting stuff, and there's absolutely no reason why we can't be a part of that as well. So Space Group, make a report to the congregation, a very detailed report within probably as soon as a couple months. We'll have a meeting just like this, and we think you'll leave that meeting feeling excited. Kathy.
Meeting with youth. After the last meeting where they kind of heard what was the potential, there were some very shocked, or, you know, it's just, they've only had so many years and this is their church, and they're just like,
right.
Wah! And I understand, I talked to at least one of them about the fact that they weren't at the meeting, they left. But they also don't feel necessarily comfortable talking about it around everybody.
Right.
And so I'm just wondering if there's a way to meet with them and talk about what it is that are their needs. Because some of it is the reality of, do you want this space for the next years, or do you want to have a church in town? Right. And we need that understand that that's what we're looking at, and they don't necessarily get it just from what's being talked about
Right.
in these major meetings. So that's just a question about whether we can include them somehow in another way.
Absolutely, yes. So we've probably had 10 congregational meetings now about the space, and so feeling like we're done talking and we need to do, and we're running out of time. So there's that. I would be very happy, anybody that wants to have a conversation, and I will volunteer Pat to come with me, and we can have tea or coffee, and we can have that conversation. There's also, though, something that's a thing in the United Church that isn't a thing in a big fundamentalist church, okay? In those big churches like Springs of Living Water, for example, the minister is the CEO that's driving the company, okay? In the United Church, we all feel like we all have a bit of a veto over how things, because we feel so strongly this is our space. So we kind of have to find a way in the middle of that to hear what everybody is saying, but at the same time, respect that the congregation has appointed a space group to say, we can't all come to an agreement given all the opportunities that are available to us. And so could you come back to us with some recommendations? And I feel like you're trusting us to do that. So that's the process that's unfolding now. We meet regularly. We meet in prayer. we meet thoughtfully, and we could do a better job of listening to folks that might want to express their ideas or concerns on a one-to-one basis, and so the answer is absolutely yes.
So they meet on Tuesday nights.
So who's,
Sorry, so you
what you,
Tuesday nights, they also meet during church
I see.
on Sundays. So just that those would be good times.
Tuesday nights are good for me, so I will,
We'll have a conversation.
we'll do that for sure.
Thank you.
When we have this next congregational meeting, we'll probably be in a position to make some decisions. Decisions mean this is exactly what we're doing. Decisions means that here's the path we're on, and there will be lots of consultation after that, because we will need to include people. The research around thriving congregations, and there are many thriving congregations across Canada, United States, we're doing reasonably well, but they all have one thing in common, and that they all say yes to charting new courses. And I think that's the space that we're moving into. And when I look out at these wonderful folks here, we have everything we need to feel a tremendous sense of abundance about our future. That's where I'm at right now. Barb.
Factors, and there was some talk about geothermal, but that no research has gone into finding out whether geothermal is a thing that we could get grants for, do here, what the savings would be. Is that something that we're going to consider?
We have done research on geothermal before, which I was involved with when they were doing my pointing right away. The massive building project called the Birthing Center next door. We actually offered to put in a ground source heat pump system here and sell heat to the building next door. And we couldn't even get a response from government about that. So there was some research put in. We talked about that with our group, with the space group, and just feel that if we went and just looked at, okay, how can we rent out this space better, or what are the options of replacing the boiler, it leaves us not considering more fundamental changes that could be even more exciting. So if the congregation says, no, we're good, we want to keep doing this, then I think we need to go and look at how are we going to replace the boiler. But we wouldn't want to spend a lot of time in that, because it just feels like an incremental change that's not going to be addressing these unrelenting trends.
Except that if that's one of the motivating factors for saying, let's knock down Treeville condos, because the boiler's going to cost $100,000, then we need to know if there's an alternative that isn't going to cost $100,000.
There will be options placed in front of everyone, and there will be lots of time for discussion and consideration. Yeah.
Okay, and then I have another
Sure.
question about that. I haven't been at any of the congregational meetings that have talked about, as far as if we didn't choose the option B or whatever was on the list the last time at the space meeting, and we wanted to try and rent the space better.
Yeah.
Has any research been done as to what is the potential? Like, if we were to make all sorts of effort and to find the optimum amount of renters, what would that look like? Would it even, like, if we were able to rent the tree out to congregations every Sunday and rent the space out to weddings and
Right.
put together a full wedding package and we'll do your whole wedding, you just show up, and whatever we would do to
Right.
rent the space out, would that make a difference? Like, are
Sure.
there any studies?
We will be presenting options when we come back to the congregation. The graph that Adam showed, which none of that would address, it might give us a balanced budget. It might delay, it might reduce our deficits, like that approach. But Adam's showing 500 dedicated givers in 2009. We're down to 240 now. So renting out the building efficiently is unlikely to that trend. we want to do something to address that trend. We want that number to go back up.
Fair enough, but unlikely meaning, do we know what the potential would be?
We can look at it financially and give the congregation some options, but we're also getting into, this is the type of discussion that we can have, that we're not going to be saying this is what we're doing. We're going to be coming back with a full, wholesome conversation in a couple months' time. So we're gathering options now, and there will be an option put forward which looks similar to what you're, I think, proposing, or wondering if it's viable, for sure. Pat, do you want to add anything? If I put my foot in my mouth?
No, but I'd be happy to sit in on conversations and listen to other ideas
Yeah.
with individuals or smaller groups.
Yeah.
That's great.
All right, this is just an update. That went a little longer than I thought. Oh, and I also wanted to say, the Camino Manitoba stuff in the back, I had asked our volunteer for a 2-page annual report, and I stopped reading after 2 pages. And it's like 6 pages, I think, so sorry that it's a little longer. But that's why we weren't being that full of ourselves, that we thought you needed to read 6 pages of what we're up to. But if you have any questions about Camino Manitoba stuff, it's very exciting and an expression of this a ministry of St. Mary's Road United Church. We have over 400 people now that have paid to come to our events. And there's a lot of feeling of excitement around that. If anybody wants to talk about that, meet me afterwards. Thanks very much.
All right, thank you very much, Sean, and to all of the, I'm going to call you the Space Force, for your work over the past year. So just a word about stewardship before we move forward, because as we have discussed, we have a significant projected deficit for 2024, and we all just approved it, so now we have to do something about it. We know there's a number of ways to address this, so either increased offering, just sort of on a weekly basis, more events, a stewardship campaign, which we haven't done in a while, and rentals and space utilization, which, as Sean just talked about, the Space Force space team and the folks at the Trinity Foundation are doing some of that work. So the leadership team would like to really make an effort to sort of address this, as we've heard, right, that this has sort of been an ongoing trend, just that the leadership team comes in December with sort of this is the deficit, we need help to not have this massive deficit. And this has been, working for the most part, managed to bring it down. But it's not the most sustainable or not the least stressful way to approach that. So we would like to find ways of, sort of addressing that more on an ongoing basis. So part of that is this, the event, the fundraising event component of this. This is something that we did a lot more of before COVID, and COVID has sort of put, COVID, obviously we couldn't do it during COVID, and since we've come back, we've sort of, we would love to have those kind of events, not just because they bring money for the church, but also because they really help, build and foster that sense of community that is so important to this space and this congregation. So if you are somebody who feels like you are interested in planning an event, we would really love for you to do that. Feel free to reach out to leadership if you need any help, if you're looking for other folks who might be interested and wanting to get a team together. We are not going to stand in your way from planning a fundraising event if you want to do that within reason, obviously. If it's not church appropriate, we'll have some concerns, but you're all reasonable people. So yeah, don't be too worried about being like, oh, I need to get, leadership team approval, like whatever. We would love for you to do an event that would bring in money for the church. You can reach out to me or anybody on the leadership team if that is something you're interested in doing. And also, we would like to reinvigorate the stewardship committee and maybe think about how this could look differently as well. So maybe this is not just folks who are interested in helping get givings up, which also is obviously something that is important, but maybe this is also folks who are interested in doing some events or, you know, anything that might look like to you. If you have an idea for how we can sort of increase givings to the church, increase income for the church, and you think that a stewardship committee or something like that might be a good way for you to connect with other folks to do that, we would like that. The leadership team is going to be working on getting a committee like this together. So if this is of interest to you, we would love for you to contact leadership. And we will be also, this will be an ongoing ask. So you can percolate on it, and yeah, we'll get back to you. So, but yes, if this is something that you're sitting there thinking right now, that's a really big deficit, I'd like to help do something about it, please reach out to leadership.
There is somebody, Vicki Nelson works for our area, our region. As stewardship, she's young, she's energetic and passionate about looking at churches as a place of finding our abundance and figuring out how to help us build from there. So if somebody has that passion, I definitely say get in touch with her and you'll get even more excited about it.
Okay, thank you. That sounds like a great resource. So the next item on our agenda is nominations. Everybody's the part you've all been waiting for, because I know you're all just bursting to volunteer for leadership team. So we technically at the moment have 5 vacancies on leadership team, because we've had 2 folks. Sorry, we had one person who had to step down, and then we did not find a full 3 members last election. So we've had 3 folks put their names forward so far. These will all be for 3-year terms. So we have Lisa Licks, Rael Lambert, and Barbara Parnell-Best, who have all volunteered to put their names forward. We are, however, still looking for 2 more people. So is there anybody from the floor right now who would like to put their name forward for that? For either, these are just, because these are positions that, the one that was not filled and the one that somebody had to step down. Like I said earlier, one of them is a 1-year term and one of them is a 2-year term. Yes, Sandy. Right, yeah, so yours will be, because you're leaving this year, yours will be one of the, filled by one of the folks who have already put their names forward. So these 3 names that I have here will all be for 3-year terms, and we have these other 2 that will be for partial terms. Yeah, so these are the folks who are coming on to leadership, not the folks who are leaving. So is there anybody who would like to put their name forward at this time?
Is there any clarification on what the 1-year and 2-year positions are?
They're just regular leadership team positions. They're just one person. They're just vacant because, like, the way that we try and cycle through it is so that we have 3 folks coming off and 3 folks coming on each year, so that we sort of have 6 folks who are still remaining on the committee for, like, continuity-wise. So these are just partial terms because we want to maintain that sort of 3 folks coming off at a time and not have a year, 3 years from now, where we have to find another 5 folks all in 1 year. Marissa, did I see a hand from, was that a hand of you volunteering? You're both volunteering. All right. Okay. So we have Callie and Marissa who are putting their names. Which one of you wants the 2-year and which one of you wants the 1-year? Marissa will take the 2, Callie will take the 1. Okay, that's very exciting. All right. I also saw a question.
I was just gonna ask if there was an age, like a lower limit, like, if I wanted to volunteer to be on the leadership team.
I think that is fine.
Just curious.
The youngest that we have had, to my knowledge, is 16. Maybe I'm wrong.
Maybe you could tell us who is staying on the leadership team?
Yes, sorry, that is on the end. So currently, our folks who are staying on the leadership team will be Ted, DL, Kathy, and Arthur. Those are our current folks who are staying.
Not you.
Not me. I'm done. I'm out of here. Literally out of here.
Tell us where you're going.
Oh, I got accepted to grad school this week. So like I'm here till August, but then I'm leaving.
Where are you going?
Peterborough. Yeah. Adam has a question.
In terms of who can be on leadership, people only qualification is membership, and that's confirmation. And so if you're confirmed, you can be on leadership.
Right.
Any youth who wants to can be on leadership.
Okay. Thank you for that clarification. Yeah, Sandy? So that would bring us to a full slate with those two. No, that your positions we've covered that, Sandy. We found folks, so we'll be good.
There'll be 9.
Yeah, there'll be 9.
There'll be 9.
Yeah.
There's 5 plus the 4 that.
It would have been, so Lisa, Riel, Barbara, 3-year terms.
Yeah, so they're 3-year terms, so they will fill for Marlene, me, and Sandy, who are all coming off this year. They will take those positions, and then we have Callie and Marissa, who have agreed to take on these partial terms. Yes. Okay. I know, this is so exciting. Okay, so the one other position that we have vacant is we have one regional rep. Currently, Margaret has agreed to stay on for another year. We do technically have 2 regional rep positions. So if there's anybody else who's interested in being a rep, one of SMRC's reps for the regional meeting, you can volunteer for that now too. Yep. There you go. Yes, so the regional meeting is online this year, so you just attend the regional meeting, read the emails. Right. And Margaret is very thorough in her reporting of things, so you'll be working with Margaret, who has lots of experience in doing this. So this is something you maybe don't know a lot about, but have been looking for an opportunity to learn more. This might also be a good time to do that. Okay, Joan, wow, this is really exciting, folks. We filled all of the spaces that we needed people for. This is really, much better energy. This is such a good energy. I'm really proud of all of us. Okay, so then I will move that we close nominations now that we have found folks. Oh, Kathy has a question. Oh, yes. This is true. While we're batting 100, Ken has also said that he would like to step back from the treasurer role. So if there's anybody who wants to take that on. That looked like a hand, Kathy.
Yeah, it looks like a hand, because I think that there might be someone in a couple of years when I no longer am on
Oh,
that might be willing to step forward.
okay.
But that's going to require some conversations with that.
Okay. Good to know.
It's a little glimpse.
That's going in the minutes.
Maybe talk to that person first.
Okay. Okay. He is. I think he was in the position for a while. I think he had too much other stuff going on to be able to continue.
He
You know.
used to do a musical, so maybe I could blackmail him. If he takes the treasurer role.
I think you shouldn't bring up blackmail until after you've already been proved to be on leadership. All right. I guess yeah. You can frame it as taking initiative. That's fine. Ken, do you have to be an accountant to be treasurer?
No, but I
anything other than Excel?
Well,
Do you guys-
right now, the way that our system is working, the accounting is done within QuickBooks, accounting software. But I'm not in doing the work, like Rhonda, if we continue with a Rhonda type person doing that accounting, that now you need that oversight view from that treasurer to be looking at things and knowing whether or not there's things that need to be adjusted, changed, or whatever.
And Ken, you're willing to be a mentor?
Oh, for sure, yeah, well, no, since this church amalgamated, I've probably been, yes.
He keeps us involved, whether he likes it or not.
Okay. I'm not seeing a flurry of hands for that one, aside from an ask me later from Kathy. So I will move on for now, but there will be another ask, I'm sure. So I am going to move that we close nominations. Does anybody have any concerns about that? Seeing none, we will consider nominations closed. So then, well, we seem to have 2 motion eights. That's fine. So our next motion, acclamation of leadership team. So move that Lisa Lix, Rael Lambert, Barbara Parnell Best, Marissa Smurl, and Callie Smurl be elected to the leadership team of St. Mary's Road United Church. Does anybody have any concerns with that, or can we consider that accepted? No, we don't need to move in second because we're voting by consensus. Not seeing any, we can consider that approved. So congratulations to all our new members of the leadership team. Thank you very much for agreeing to put your name forward. We do not need motion 9 because we found all our people, and that was just to empower the leadership team to find people and appoint them if we did not get people, but we did. And so then motion 10 for regional reps, that Margaret and Joan be appointed as representatives to the Prairie to Pine region of the United Church of Canada on behalf of St. Mary's Road United Church. Does anybody have any issues with that moving forward? Seeing none, we will consider that approved. So we will give a thank you to our retiring leadership team members, Marlene, Sandy, and I, our retiring regional rep, Julia, and just a big thank you to all our folks who serve on our various, oh, we don't have slides, that's fine. I'm gonna stop gesturing to them. This is our last one anyway, so it doesn't matter. But a thank you to all the folks who are on all of these various committees, and of course to all of our volunteers who make all of the things happen, to everyone who makes soup and cookies and tech and all of the things that everybody does for this community. We appreciate you all very much, and this place would not be this place without all of the hard work and lovely people who make this happen. Phil, will you close us out with a closing prayer?
From the letter to the Philippians, I am confident of this, that the one who began a good work among you will bring it to completion on the day that Jesus Christ has appointed. Let us pray. God, thank you for St. Mary's Road United Church, for its varied ministry and its wonderful people. You're grateful for the legacy we have received and the legacy that we will leave, praying that you will continue to bless all those that are involved in the community in which we serve. Let us trust and lean into the new ways that you may take us and persevere with gratitude and hope and courage. This I pray in Christ's name, the power of the Holy Spirit, all for the Creator's glory. Amen and amen. All right.
All right, thank you. That adjourns our, oh, sorry, we've got a question from Bev.
Thank you. And thank you, Lily, and thank you, DL, and thank you to all the leadership team and to the tech team that ran today and everything. And for those that are volunteering right at this moment to help clean this up a little bit before a funeral reception.
So, meeting adjourned. I don't have a gavel.
That's why the tables are like this. It's just to make sure it's, yeah, so if it, I'm glad that it was cold and not slushy this morning.